On this episode of Filmmaker, we discuss my recent trip to Philadelphia and New York City and the winners of the interview contest. Welcome to another episode of Filmmaker. My name's Ariel Martinez, and I believe this should be at least not the last episode, because I'm sure our schedules are going to get mixed up as well, but this will be the last of this whole crazy schedule for Mr. McCoy, so he won't be with us on this episode. So I'm going to keep this episode relatively short. We want to announce the winners of this interview contest, which I have right here. We're also going to go through my recent trip to Philadelphia and New York City, which was a crazy one, and I'll go over a little bit more obviously with Mr. McCoy, since New York is his hometown. So I think it only makes sense to talk to him in regards of that trip, my thoughts on the city. I mean, I've been to New York before and it's pretty much the same, but yeah, we'll get into that as well. So on this trip, it's actually it was kind of, I want to say, bittersweet, because my traveling experience was a little bit easier since I recently picked up a grip cart. It's not anything crazy or extravagant. It was quite cheap, actually. It's an on-stage grip cart that I posted on my social media not that long ago, and I've been using it to get around here in Miami and whatnot, and it's just been a godsend for me. However, traveling with it, it's much more expensive, obviously, because now that adds, I usually travel with 2 bags, and now this grip cart adds my 3rd bag. And then any airline, it goes, the first bag is usually $25, the second bag is usually $35, and then the 3rd bag jumps up to $150. So that's a big bummer for my clients, because I'm not going to pay for that. However, I mean, the only thing that helps out is that I do have some status with American Airlines, so my first bag is free, so that's $25 up and back, so that's $50 that you save in total baggage. However, that 3rd bag, $150 up and back, is $300. So I had, it's basically now adding an additional $300 of baggage just for that cart. To me, I mean, obviously it's worth it to take it, because it makes my traveling experience a lot more convenient. And so if you're on YouTube watching, it's actually right behind me right here. It just makes things so much easier. I love it. It's the first time I travel with a grip cart. I gotta tell you, it's so convenient, because I have my think tank backpack which I carry my FS5, my camera, basically my most expensive stuff, and then that stays with me at all times. I don't check that. And then what stays with me at all times as well is basically my oh, it's not here, it's in my other room, but it's my check bag, which has my clothing and whatnot, and every now and then I'll put additional equipment there that I usually take, but it just doesn't quite fit in my other bags, like my Pelican case and whatnot. So those 2 bags stay with me, and then my check bags is my Pelican case and my porter brace, where case that bag that I have my tripods, my light stands, my grip tape, my extension cables. I have all that stuff in there, and it helps. It's great. I haven't had any issues. And the way I move around with that stuff, that's the inconvenient part, because, I have my backpack on my back, rolling around with my carry-on case, my carry-on, luggage, and then my Pelican case that has wheels and I can roll, and then my porter brace, I have to kind of horizontally rest that on top of my Pelican case as I roll it around. So it's very, very inconvenient. If every door that I have to go through, I have to kind of go sideways at an awkward way, because the porter brace bag is horizontally, leveled, and sometimes it won't fit through doorways or escalators, or it's just kind of an inconvenient scenario there. So with my cart, I could just throw everything on that. Everything, all that stuff, it's on there. Nothing on my back, nothing that I have to roll except for that cart itself. And it just, my goodness, it's such a game changer for me. Moving around in airports, getting into any building, it's just a huge game changer. So definitely will be traveling with that. And unfortunately, my clients are just going to have to bear that cost because, you know, unless they're willing to pay for it, unless I'm traveling with an assistant, which is usually not the case, we're gonna have to bear that cost. We need that cart to I need that cart to now wheel my equipment around. And so it just made things easier for me. So anyways, that's that. This is the first time I use it, and I will continue to use it. Maybe in the future I'll get a much more sturdier cart, as now I'm looking into getting another Pelican case because I'm starting to run out of space for my gear. So there's that as well. And so anyways, I landed in Philadelphia. I had to drive. It was weird. I had to take an Uber over to Jersey to meet with my client and the people that I was going to shoot with. And then we actually had to go back to Philly, and that's where we were going to do our shoot. They actually picked me up the next morning, I mean, and we were staying in this loft. If you're following me on Instagram, I had this on my stories the entire time. We're staying in this loft, and it was very, very nice. Very, very nice loft. It was an Airbnb that my client found, and this is my client from Thailand, by the way, and they're actually my biggest client. So we were staying there. The point of this production was we're going to do a live broadcast. And that loft had a really, really nice kitchen with an island in it, and it just made sense to do it there. And that's where they wanted to do it. So I brought my equipment, which was kind of hard because with my LED lights that I travel with, I wasn't prepared to light something with that much volume in space. So my lights had to travel a long way. All the practical lights that they had at the loft was actually a bunch of tungsten lighting. So I had to make sure that my lights were matching that color temperature. Unfortunately, my lights are not bicolor. They do come with a filter. So I had to have that filter on. And I had to use additional lighting that my client actually brought a couple of LED panels that he had. And it helped a lot. However, he did not have tungsten filters for them. They were not bicolor. They were only daylight balanced. So that didn't help too much. So I definitely could not use those for direct lighting. So what I had to do with those was I had to bounce those off the roof, which was kind of high. So I had to make sure my light stand was as high as possible so the light doesn't have to travel that much. So I had to bounce it off the roof, which was made of wood, nice brown wood. So that it was bouncing that warm light back down to the entire set. Which helped distribute the entire light. It warmed the brown wood warmed up the light, and it brought it right down to the set, and it actually helped. It helped a bunch, but because of the height of the roof, the light has to travel a much longer distance. So by the time that it actually reached the set, the light was already dissipating, and in terms of exposure and brightness, it didn't help that much, but it did help in terms of turning the color back to tungsten, which is where I needed it to be. So it took a while to play with that kind of lighting. And then I had my small on-camera LEDs from Aperture, and I was just I used my Joby Gorillapod. I used a couple of clamps and whatnot to put them in specific places for a little bit of backlighting. And they were nice and hidden in the background. Overall, it wasn't too bad. It just took a lot of time to play with and just get the lighting just right to make sure that if he walks to the left and he walks to the right, he's still well lit. But it did take a while. Good thing that we had to plan we had planned the first day that we got there. That first entire day was just setting up and practicing. The second day, we had much more setting up and practicing, and then the second day at night at 8 p.m. was the day of the live broadcast. It started at 8 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, and we were broadcasting live. And basically, they also recorded it. They're gonna keep that recording for a ever webinar, which is the first time I heard of that, but it's an ever webinar. Basically, they do a sales pitch. It's kind of like an infomercial type deal. They recorded that one live, and then they're gonna play that every Friday for their retailers to show their potential clients and whatnot. But all that whole marketing stuff is a different story. But anyways, that's exactly what we did, and that's what I needed to be there for. That's my client that I usually do all the work for, Tyant, and we have them on retainer. Which, by the way, the owner is actually, I'm gonna have him on the show soon, because I think it's good that you guys get a owner's or business owner perspective on what they require or what they're looking for in terms of videography. So it might help you guys to hear from what a client is usually looking for. So be on the lookout for that. So that was that production. That was in Philly. And it was fun. Definitely had a good time with these guys. Man, it was incredible how everything that could go wrong before the production did go wrong, including the laptop that we were planning on using for the live broadcast crashing on us like 3-4 times before we decided we had to get a new one. The very last time was like 3 hours before we had to go live, and we decided this is not gonna fly, because if this crashes in the middle of broadcast, we're done for. And he's already spent a lot of money on this production, on putting this whole thing together. So he decided, well, let's just go get a brand new laptop. So I had to take a run over to Best Buy, and we bought a new laptop, and that was that. So all kinds of troubles we were having, especially with the laptops, with sending of signal. I had to send the signal from my FS5 through HDMI. I had to use my small HD monitor, so I was going straight to my small HD monitor from my FS5 and then outputting that signal directly to him, getting the audio set up. And it was crazy how everything, a lot of the things that we're planning, it was just going so terribly wrong. And then the moment of the actual broadcasting came and nothing went wrong, which is awesome, which is great when that happens that way. So that is definitely a benefit for that production. So New York City. This is a funny one. So the day after we finished in New York, it was kind of like it was a little annoying. So I had to get an Uber to go all the way to a rental car place, pick up a rental, and I had to drive over to New York, which was a couple hours away from where we were. And I had to do an endorsement video with this food blogger that she basically endorses the product, the Tyant product. So I had to show up at her house and do this, interview endorsement video. But man, this was inconvenient because her apartment is I think 200 square feet total. And I'm not very experienced in New York, but apparently that's how all the apartments are, and I'm not used to that. So I'm used to a lot more space when it comes to shooting and whatnot. So I had to make do with what I had. Thankfully, and I shot everything with my mostly everything with my 18-35 Sigma f1.8, and so she had kind of her lighting situation wasn't the best either. So she had a kind of like a 4500 Kelvin lighting scenario going on. And there was no way, I was not even able to put any light stands. It was funny. I had to position my camera in her living room, in her bedroom, in order to get that separation that I wanted, the depth of field that I was looking for, at least relatively looking for. I had to put it in her living room so that I can shoot out into her kitchen, which is where I had her sitting in the middle of her kitchen / dining area slash bathroom. So I had to position her there with her tiny unit in the background so it would look kind of, I guess, nice there. And there was absolutely no space to put any kind of light stands because it would show up in the shot. So what I had to do is I had to pull out my trusty clamps. I clamped on my my light, one of my LED lights in front of her on the door frame, and then I clamped another LED light. These are my on-camera LED lights. This is what these little lights are useful for situations like this. They're very small, and I threw on a diffuser on the one that's hitting her directly. And the one that wasn't behind her, backlighting her, there was no diffuser. And that was pretty much it. There was nothing special about it. It's just kind of sort of an inconvenient scenario there. On top of the fact that I only had about an hour and a half to get everything with her. So needless to say, I did not have any time to set up. My FS5 was completely stripped down. Everything, side handle, top handle, lens, everything. Nothing was on my FS5. It was in my bag. So I had to just stick with my Sony a6300, and I decided I'm gonna just grab every single aspect of this with that camera. And I mean, it's a great camera. It's how I used to shoot before I got the FS5. So I decided, this is already set up. Let me just use it. Just put in a fresh battery, new SD card, and I'm good to go. And that was that. So I conducted the interview, got a bunch of B-roll, her using the unit, a bunch of B-roll. She's a blogger, so I got a bunch of shots of her on her computer, typing, blogging, whatever it is that she does, reading a book on her couch, walking around New York City. So we went outdoors, and for those shots, I actually put on my 24-105 lens because it has good image stabilization, and I was going to be shooting handheld this entire time. I had no time to get my tripod or even my monopod, so I was literally shooting all of it handheld. So, that's all the time that I had with her. So I had to go handheld, and so that image stabilization with 24-105 really came in handy for this shoot. My Sony a6300 really came in handy for this shoot. So I'm very thankful for that, and very, very thankful. So that was that shoot, and that was pretty much it in terms of like the content of what I had to do, the scope of my work for what I had to do for this one trip. It was a 5-day trip, but in New York, I actually had a good amount of downtime. So I took in the sights a lot. I went out to Times Square as I've done before. It's nice and bright at night out there, so I took a few shots. I went on a few time lapses. If you're following me on Instagram, at arielmartinez.tv, you could have seen all this stuff on my stories. I'll start making a habit of saving my stories, especially on trips like that, so that I can then show them here. I think it'd be nice if you're subscribed on YouTube. You can see this. But I'll start making a habit of starting. I apologize, I didn't save any of those videos now. So what I did was I was done with that shoot by 2-3 o'clock, and 2-3 o'clock p.m. my flight to leave was not for another 24 hours. No, more than that, because it was the next day at 5 p.m. So first thing I did was I went to check into my hotel and really knocked out. And I wasn't crazy about my hotel either. Not that much space, but I guess that's how New York is. I know that there's quite a few New York followers here on the podcast. But yeah, I mean, that's how hotels are apparently in New York. And so it's just, it doesn't matter to me really. I just needed a knockout. I was so tired. So I took a quick nap, and then I went in to take on the sights. I did a couple of time lapses, none that were probably any good. I'll show it here anyways, just so you guys can see what's up with that. And took a few shots over at Times Square, walking around. And then the next morning, I'm so bummed out. I was trying to go to the top of the rock over at Rockefeller Center and taking that nice bird's eye view of the entire city. But I showed up at 8 in the morning because I wanted to make sure I took in as many shots as I could before I had to check out and go to my flight. But I showed up at 8 in the morning and they told me that I can go up there, but there is zero visibility out there. It's like $40 to go up there, which is fine. I was ready to go up, but they told me that there was a 0% visibility. So basically you can't see anything right now because it's so cloudy and everything's going to be covered. So I was just bummed out about that. So it is not very fun. So it was a bummer. It was a big bummer. Anyways, that's pretty much the scope of my trip. Very, very little sleep. On purpose. I mean, I could have slept, but I decided, man, I'm in a different city, and I encourage everyone that when you travel for work, try to take advantage. And if you have downtime, whether you're done with your job or whatnot, go out, take a look at the city, go have fun. Oh, by the way, the parking is ridiculous. Parking in New York City, my goodness, I kind of expected that, but I'm talking more about like the pricing. So the first garage, when I went to go shoot with her name is Amy Valpone. When I went to go shoot with her, I parked right across the street at a garage for a couple of hours, and it cost $45. My gosh. And then when I went to the hotel, there was a garage right next door. Same thing. But however, I left the rental car there overnight. There was no way I was gonna find parking anywhere I wanted to go, so I decided to walk around and take Ubers if I needed to. So that's exactly what I did. I took a bunch of Ubers everywhere I went, and when I picked up the car the next day, it was $80 to pick up the car for a 24-hour parking. So that's very, very expensive. So, and with that being said, that's pretty much the scope of my trip. On our next episode, we're going to have Mr. McCoy back with us, and he's going to tell us all about this Reebok CrossFit games that he's been telling me is the reason why he hasn't been with us. And trust me, I completely believe him. I've been a part of that event before. We're actually going to be shooting one together soon over in Minneapolis, I believe. We're doing the Granite Games together. But he's going to tell us all about how crazy his weekend was. And I'm sure that it's going to bring tears to his eyes of how insane it was and how he wished I was able to be with him. Because he was actually trying to get me to go over there. And they were asking for another videographer. I just couldn't. I had this trip to be at. So unfortunately, I was not able to go and give him a helping hand over there. But yeah, I kind of definitely feel him on that one. So we're going to have him on, and he'll be back with us, and we'll see how that one is going to go. So I promised you guys the winners of this interview contest, and very, very cool. Very, very excited. I was kind of hoping for more submissions, but I understand that this is still a podcast that's growing, and but yeah, I mean, I can't expect everything. However, we had to pick a couple of the winners that, even though they did not, a lot of the people that submitted did not show themselves doing the interview. Actually, these are just basically videos that were done. I think only one person submitted submitted both sides of the interview. So we're gonna have to select a couple people that didn't, and basically they're getting it just because, my goodness, my mouse is not cooperating with me at this point. I just move things around on my desk, and anytime I move my hard drives, I don't know, for some reason it kind of affects my Magic Mouse that I have connected to my Mac Pro. So hopefully, let's see if this thing gets back in order here. So the winners of this interview contest are, here we go. So we have the first submission from Landelot. He submitted a video that they did of basically, here it is. I'm gonna watch it, and if you're on YouTube, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on Instagram here. So this is basically a short documentary on women's equality in the military, and they're showing the interview that they did with this female in the military in the, I believe it's U.S. Army
I am
here,
Samantha Lindemulder, a first
and
lieutenant in the United States Army.
yeah, she's a first lieutenant in the U.S. Army. So
I currently work in the 78th Signal Battalion Fusion Cell. I'm the OIC, and my
Let's check
job
this
is
out.
to ensure that my battalion leadership is constantly aware of the operational posture for the 3 islands that our battalion sits across. I had a very active upbringing. I was very actively involved in figure skating when I was a child, up for
Composition looks great.
9 years. After that, I then moved into cheerleading throughout high school and was on a competitive cheerleading squad for 4 years. And I was very involved with ballet for about 8 years as well. Growing up, I would definitely say that Elizabeth Blackwell
I like how she's
was my
answering
role
in
model
complete
that I looked up
sentences, so
to.
the audience
And
knows
this is
exactly
because
what
she
she's
was the
answering.
first female to receive a medical degree in the United States of America. In addition to that, she was a very pioneering woman with leading education rights for women, as well as ensuring that women are receiving more emphasis in scientific studies as well. I chose to serve our country because I have this strong passion to do something big and bold with my life, and I felt that I would best be fit serving the country in the United States Army with that, because I'm a driven and motivated individual that wants to have a positive and significant impact on the world. I currently am in the United States Signal Corps. I chose this career path because
not crazy
I wanted
about that.
to be involved
You just
in
cut her off and
something
fade it out.
that is a very male-dominant society, but has very multiple opportunities to allow for women to excel in, as well as to create a path and allow for future women to fall in and fill that pathway up and create a larger path and eventually work together to be a very male and female dominated society together. I definitely strive to consistently and consecutively score a 300 on the APFT, just so that, I know it sounds weird saying that, but I want them to see that I'm able to hang with them and can keep up with them. So I want them to have the perception that I'm fit physically, I'm fit mentally, and I'm fit spiritually, so I'll be able to be a strong peer with them and also eventually a strong leader. Off duty, I do and definitely enjoy going scuba diving. With that, it's definitely a thrill-seeking adventure. In addition to that, I also enjoy running. So with that, I recently had the ability to complete.
All right, so we'll end it there because I want to show a couple more here. So this is well done. The interview was well conducted. I really liked how she's answering in complete sentences, and you can tell, that that's something that actually does not come natural. So it is appreciated that the interviewee actually gave good instructions to the interviewer. I'm sorry, the other way around. The interviewer gave good instructions to the interviewee in terms of how to answer these questions. A couple of just notes here. When you're interviewing, you want to make sure that it kind of sounds like the audio is coming straight out of the camera. I don't know if that's the case, because I do hear a lot of echo and a lot of background noise. If you can somehow figure out a way of getting that microphone much closer to the source, that's always going to be your best bet. That's how you're always going to get the best audio, the cleanest audio. I do like the composition of the camera placement. I like how the wall is coming from right behind her all the way down the hallway there. I think that's pretty cool. I like that composition. And the lighting looks great. Looks really, really nice. I always like natural lighting. I'm not sure. You're kind of mixing in the practical lighting of the internals and with the outdoor lighting, which is fine. I mean, it does complement her. It looks really, really nice. Now, there's one thing here that I wanted to point out. So I'm assuming, so this was shot in 4K. I'm assuming here that you have a wide shot in 4K and then you're punching in 4K because the angle looks exactly identical. So I'm only going through that assumption. But then later on in the video, you cut into a shot that is completely opposite side. And then now you're staring directly at the wall. You're staring directly at the window. It's flat window. and then you're on the completely other side of her. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that if you were to stay on the same kind of direction and you were to punch in, I think you should have stayed in with those two shots, the wide and then the punch in shot. This it has a much nicer composition. This one, you're basically the composition is just, the window right behind her. And I mean, the blinds look nice, but I think you just eliminated all the depth that your other shot was creating, which was really, really nice. And the reason why I kind of liked it had a lot of good depth on that last, on the going down the hallway there, which is kind of why I liked it. And then you come and I didn't even know, it's not until like halfway through the video that you showed the other shot here. Come on, mouse. And yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's just, there's no more depth there anymore. I mean, there is depth because I'm assuming that it seems like you're very, very shallow, either at 2.8 or faster than that. So it's good composition. However, in terms of the interview, I think it was well conducted. I think that she's answering really well, and yeah, good interview. So that's our first winner. The second winner is going to be Jared Hillhouse. And by the way, this is not any specific order. It's just this is actually in the order that it was received. So there's no first, second, and third place. All these guys are receiving a Rode Video Micro. So the next interview is from Jared Hillhouse. Now Jared,
so with interviews,
actually submitted
an interview, I guess, but
a two-sided interview. And here we go.
To have a discussion.
Jared Hillhouse.
I want to go back and forth.
I'm not sure where he's from.
Not interrogation.
But here we go.
But
he did exactly as I asked.
The best effects of
Jared actually got a friend, interviewed, recorded both sides of the conversation. And
I'm going to have to, when I ask a question or if I ask a question,
I repeat it.
Yeah, not kind of not repeat it, but just reiterate the question so that viewers will know what you're responding to. So if I ask you what your favorite color was, instead of just saying black, say, well, my favorite color is black, or whatnot.
Good instruction.
Oh, my favorite car is a Ford Mustang.
Not so much.
Not so much?
Not so much.
All right. So let's just start out with a little bit about yourself. Your name, whatever you want to tell us to start off with, and we'll kind of roll from there. Introduce us to who Brett is.
Who am I? My name is Brett Saunders. I am 36 years old. I currently live in Blanding, Utah, getting ready to move.
Okay, here, Jared, you want to tell him to look at you. He's looking at the camera, which most people do. Most people tend to stare at the camera because they never know. And I usually, as soon as the first time I see them looking at the camera, I either give them a signal. I give them a signal with two fingers up. Tell them, look into my eyes, because that's where I want them to look at. You're going to look at me. Remember, let them know, be comfortable, have and kind of get loose. And if you have to kind of, I guess, guide them and lead them and show them how to get loose, and try to have them forget about the camera as much as possible. So
the more I'm outdoors, the happier a person I am. I'm just simple. I don't stress about nothing. I don't care about the news. I don't care about the weather. If it's outside, it's outside. And if it's in my yard, then I worry about it. But other than that, I don't care. I live a really stress-free life. I don't know. I'm just simple. I like to fish. I like to hunt. I like to hike. I love flying drones.
I like that. You didn't say anything, Jared.
Thing I'm into.
He came back and
I love filming
and answered something else.
This end.
There you go.
I don't know. That's about it.
What ended up bringing you to Blanding? I mean, Blanding's kind of it's not on the top of everybody's radar for a place to move.
What brought me to Blanding? I got started out in Monticello, which is fairly close. I started a business there, running a tire shop, roadside assistance tire shop, so that I could help people. I really like to help people. I really like to be involved with as much as I can when I'm not working too much.
What I would say at this point, Jared,
there was a gentleman.
give him a little bit more with your gestures. Nod yes, like you're intently listening to what he's saying. You know, you see how his eyes are wandering?
I felt there was a need for
Try to,
something to the effect
it's funny,
of
but
what
try
I've
to
been doing.
pierce him with your eyes. Let him know that I want you to look at me as you're talking. His eyes are wandering right now. So Jared, you know, give him a, wow, that's very interesting with your facial gestures, you know, and only you can, I guess, try that. But, you know, you have to really get in there, listen intently to what he's saying. And that's going to, you know, provide him, I guess, the okay to look at you because you're really, really interested. So he's going to continue to look at you instead of right now, you know, it's okay. Sometimes they'll look down because they think about it. But right now he's looking up. And
I've been here ever since.
You know, he's going to stay looking at you, you know, and he's going to be wandering around, looking around. Try to kind of bait him into bringing his attention to you.
Kind of the don't work with family type situation. We just got to the point where we kind of button heads a lot. Things weren't the way they were quite supposed to be, so it was better for one of us to leave. So I ended up leaving, letting the other individual take care of it.
So from the tire business to what was next?
Uranium mill.
So just remember to repeat questions.
So
there you go. Good job. Don't make him feel like he's in trouble for doing that. But that was good though. Good call, good catch. Make sure that they're always repeating the question, because if they could give a good answer and they don't repeat the question, it's going to be really hard to come around and let the audience know what exactly they're repeating, what they're talking about. So good call on that, Jared.
For a lot of reasons, that job was not a good job, but it paid the bills. It's probably one of the higher paid jobs around here. And
there you go. You're giving good gestures now.
Paid my family's bills.
There you go. Give more of that throughout the video.
But
give more of that.
I wanted to get back into the tire business myself.
All right, so that was a good video. That's a 18-minute long interview. Unfortunately, we don't have time to watch the entire thing on the show, but that was a good stuff. I'm happy that you were able to get a lot of the things that I said on the interview, the art of interviewing, on that episode, and you're really able to apply that to this interview. You're getting good feedback. You're getting good return from your interviewee, and you're doing a lot of things that I said. He was answering the questions in complete sentences. You're giving him good feedback in terms of your facial gestures, same time being quiet. And the camera is placed really well in a good position so that he can forget it. I can see it on your video. Just be very careful, and I don't know if this is because I asked you to do both sides of the interview. Just be very careful, because sometimes when you're moving your head, and you know, sometimes you do want the camera very, very close to whoever the interviewer is, but when you're moving your head, you know, you kind of sometimes got in his shot. So just be careful with that. And sometimes when I'm behind the camera and somebody else is doing the interview, I'll let them know, look, the camera lens is like right here. This is where the framing starts. So just be very careful. Do not move too far in there. And then throughout the interview process, and I know you're by yourself, so you really can't see that you're in your own shot. You just want to be very careful with that part. You know, and, you know, worst comes to worst, it happens and you don't realize you're in post-production. Just, you know, crop it, punch in a little bit, and then punch right back out. It's an easy fix. However, you know, you do want to overall get a good clean interview. So thank you, Jared, for sending your video. Really appreciate it. And you'll be receiving your Rode Video Micro in the mail by Rode, courtesy of Rode. So our last video comes in from all the way from, let me see, it's from Idai. I hope I'm saying that right. That's the individual that sent the video. This looks like another short documentary. I don't see whoever. This one's tough because I really can't. So because I can't understand the language or the subtitles of this video, I really can't critique it too much. However, I will say that I do like the shots. I like the music mixture with it. One critique that I would give in regards to this video is the dialogue, the audio. So be very careful. It seems like, let me lower this volume because I don't know if you guys, it's very loud on my headphones. So one thing that I will say about this video is that the video is great. It's really nice mixture of the imagery and the music put together. Unfortunately, I can't tell what the dialogue of this or the content that's being said. However, the interviews, you know, and you guys will find throughout the video, some of them are much better audio quality than others. Much better audio quality. So at this point at 150, you have good audio in this interview, but in the other one, it's like I could tell it's kind of a relatively large room. The camera is kind of far away from the subject, and it seems like the audio is being grabbed from the on-camera microphone, which is not always the best thing. It's not always the best thing. The lighting looks good, imagery looks great, but the audio is really what brings down the production quality of this. And this is where I tell you guys that, you know, good audio would good audio, bad video could be forgiven with good audio, but you know, a good video, bad audio could not as easily be forgiven with good video. So this is good video, for example. This is good video, good editing, good short documentary. But because the level of the audio is being grabbed by the camera's microphone, it kind of brings that production value a little bit lower. If you were to bring that production value higher, put a lav mic or put a shotgun mic just over them and get much cleaner audio without all the echoes of the room, this would be a much better video. It would bring that video to that next level. But that's really the only critique I have about this video. I wish I was understanding what they were saying, but I really can't. But that's the only thing I have to say. It's just that really invest in see this guy right here, he has a lav mic on. That's much cleaner audio. I can see it, you know. Look, you have good time lapses going on, good composition going on. But that on-camera audio, all the echoes is really just, you know, I just can't get around that, you know. So that's the only thing I would say in regards to this video. Again, I wish I was able to understand what was going on, but I don't understand that language. But thank you, Idai, for sending in that video, and you'll be receiving a Rode Video Micro over to your place momentarily. So thank you guys for everyone that has entered this contest, and much appreciated. And hopefully we'll be doing another contest similar to this in the near future. So you guys will be receiving your Rode Video Micro. So I think that brings us to the end of this episode. I'm very happy that you guys were able to get the feedback, and those of you that also submitted videos, I already sent you your replies on my opinion and your videos. Thank you all for sending in your videos, and you know, keep practicing your art of interviewing. It's always a practice that you're gonna just get better and better and better at it, and the more you do it, obviously the better you get, the more experience you get. I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times, and you know, I still learn each and every time. So and I'm still constantly learning. So this is something that I always say: never stop learning, continue to master your craft, and you just get better and better and better at it. And your clients are going to see that, potential clients are going to see that, and they're going to want to hire you for your work. So with that being said, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have Mr. McCoy back with us on his normal schedule. I'm back at my normal schedule. And we're going to talk about my recent trip a little bit. We're going to talk more about his recent trip over there shooting at the CrossFit Games, because he was just telling me how insane it is over there. So we'll have to console him on that one. So anyways, thank you guys for listening to this episode. This is episode number 41. My goodness, time flies. Also, remember, if you're listening to this on iTunes, just want to give a quick shout out. If you guys are listening to this on audio, do me a favor, go over. Please don't do this if you're driving. But if you have a second, go over to iTunes, give us a review, a 5-star review. Always appreciate it. That's how iTunes allows us to be seen, to be shown, and that's how they rate us by your guys' feedback. So we really do appreciate that. If you like the show, let us know. Also, Facebook, if you're following us on Facebook, we're on Facebook at iFilmmaker, and check it out there. You can also give us a review there. That is always appreciated as well. So until next time, this is episode number 41. Very, very impressed at how fast this stuff is moving. So anyways, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.